The dog ran out of the long grass and just started biting into her.
A 6-year-old describing the terrifying moment her friend, Laquana Chapman-Palmer, was pulled off a fence and brutally mauled by the dog next door.
We're distraught about it. We never pictured our dogs would hurt anybody.
Laquana was just the first in a spate of attacks across Queensland this week, which saw 2 more children and 2 adults seriously injured. The dogs involved included German Shepherds, Mastiffs and Bull Arabs, popular breeds gone rogue.
I think we do put too much trust in that relationship between dogs and people. There's too much of a tendency for us to think that dogs understand what's going on, and the truth of the matter is that they don't.
Laws around dog attacks are roughly the same across the country. Local councils have powers to fine, seize or euthanize offending animals. But those aren't the only options. They can also declare a dog dangerous or menacing, forcing owners to comply with certain guidelines if they want to keep their pets.
You have to have them in a secure enclosure, which needs to be approved by council and is inspected every 12 months as well, that you're complying. Self-closing gates, it's like the last chance for the dog.
We often jump to blaming the dog. I think that we actually have to stop that. We need to be pulling back and saying who was the people who were in charge of the dog, how did this happen?
And Queensland is seemingly overrepresented for attacks.
Increased population, see increase in dog numbers, an increase of attacks, irresponsible dog owners and people not doing the right thing. So I think it's an education process that could be rolled out right across Queensland.
The state government is reviewing dangerous dog laws, but local councils say they urgently need stronger powers.
Once a dog is declared dangerous, if they won't register the animal, there's no way we can go in and seize that animal and get it off the streets. We have to go to courts, we have to issue fines, we have to go through appeal processes. That's when we want the ability to come down heavily on those people.
Rather than being punitive through the courts, I think it needs to be a sit down with the council, with the injured party, with the owners of the dog, and that restitution is made.
So will a law change be enough to stop more attacks?
Well, Brisbane mum Veronica Wingrove's daughter Lizzie was attacked by her neighbour's dog in 2016. Veronica, thanks for talking to us tonight. What happened when Lizzie was attacked?
It happened really, really quick. We were with other adults. There was at least 5 other adults there. Lizzie asked to pat a neighbour's dog. The dog's owner said, of course, and he likes it here, and she actually showed Lizzie where to pat him. As Lizzie was patting him, she took a step back at one stage, and then the dog leapt forward and bit her in the face. It happened so quickly that it was over as quickly as it began. There was no warnings.
For a mum watching that, seeing that happen to your child, what was that like?
It was the initial processing of, why is she screaming? Because I'd seen the dog jump forward, but I couldn't process, well, why is she screaming? And her hand is up at her face. And so I was within 2 metres of her at the time. And I've stood up, and by this stage she had a hand covering her face. There was blood showing under her hand, and by the time I got that 2 metres to her, the blood was dripping down her elbow. I managed to get her, had to say to her, get your hand away from your face, I need to see, I need to see. And when I had a look, there was this gaping hole in her face. I was beside myself. I still relive that moment at times. There's no way to... You're looking at your 7-year-old child thinking, how on earth are they even going to close this hole? And so I had one of the neighbours call for an ambulance, and then it turned into a long process after that.
It was 7 years ago. How's Lizzie doing now?
Look, she's doing quite well. She was 7.5 when it happened. She's about to turn 14 now. So she is growing. It happened half her life ago. It doesn't mean that the trauma didn't happen. It doesn't mean that the trauma doesn't revisit. However, we've had to arrange her recovery in a holistic way. Even before we came home from the hospital, we actually called into a friend's place to visit with them because they had a really little dog. Because my thinking at that time was, she's 7. She's still got another 70+ years of life. There are dogs in the world.
Veronica, after all of this went down, there was a lengthy court case, and after that, the neighbour was actually allowed to keep their dog. Do you think that was the right call?
Absolutely not. The dog was seized about 7 months later, finally. I had to have a lot of communication with council in relation to that. The dog was seized, and then the dog's owner was putting in appeals to QCAT. This is where it just went it just went into unbelievable mode. The dog's owner put in one appeal. And after the first hearing, the ruling came back saying, confirming to destroy the dog. Once again, the owner went back to QCAT to appeal again. Second hearing, second ruling, confirmation to destroy the dog. A few months later, the dog's owner went back for a third hearing. And on this occasion, unbelievably, QCAT decided to release the dog and set aside the destruction order and returned him back to our street. So Lizzie, in amongst her recovery, had to hear the dog barking, had to at times see the dog. There were times that the partner of the dog owner would walk in past our house.
We've seen a spate of very serious attacks this week. Why do you think they keep happening?
I think community standards have changed a lot. There's a general sense of complacency, lack of responsibility, and an overall sense of entitlement. There was a time where a dog was a dog, and I'm not saying that a dog isn't loved. A dog is a loved member of people's families. However, dogs have now become people's fur babies. They're being treated like children. Yes, dogs can be in the community, but there needs to be rules in place as to how they don't impose on other people.
Veronica, we really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.